hotter than the Australian outback, cooler than a pint of amber nectar. Blue Heelers, Tuesdays on Central.
Now on Central, it's time for the Motor Show.
In this week's Motor Show, 0 to 60 inside 3.
Top speed 180 and it's all electric.
Longer days arrive, so tops down for the ultimate pose.
With the cabriolet experience.
And another Korean car arrives.
Complete with its own showrooms.
But first, the new Williams-Renault touring car team have taken part in their first race.
On the day before, every effort went into qualifying.
Qualifying is all important for the race because that sets the position on the grid that you start the first race with, and second qualifying similarly where you start for the second race. The reason they've introduced 2 races at every meeting now, except for the British Grand Prix meeting at Silverstone, is that it's demand really from the spectators because it's entertainment. And I guess once everybody's here, you might just well do 2 races. The problem is, of course, with touring cars, it is a bit physical. Cars do get a bit damaged, and we've got to rebuild them between the races. The way the championship is structured is where we have 2 races, each race counts for maximum points, so they're treated as separate races. So one meeting you could score, if you won both races, you could score 48 points, which is actually, of course, could give you a huge sort of lead in the championship. So it'd be very nice for us to come away with a bag full of points from the first meeting.
We've had people working on the cars virtually 24 hours a day, a sort of shift system, but very, very long hours, arduous hours, and it's just been a slog. It's just been pure hard work. Alain Menu's 3rd on the grid in the first race, 3rd in qualifying, very happy with that.
I'm pleased to be 3rd because we tested my car for the first time yesterday morning. So really there is a lot of potential, so to be 3rd on the grid is quite promising. So I'm happy.
It's got no mid-range. It just doesn't, it's not very crisp.
Well, he's a little disappointed. We've got a potential lack of power, shall we say, in his engine, which we're not sure about. The engineers now are looking at data gathered during that last session to see what we can do.
So can someone be looking at the engine now? Yes. Yeah, please?
We need to know because
we need someone looking at the engine and we need the data as soon as possible.
I don't think we can change it in the time. We will be able to later on in the year when they get round to it, but the guys have been working so late for so many nights that I think if I asked them for an engine change now, I'd probably get shot and strung up.
Yeah, basically what we're doing here is changing the internal gear ratios of the gearbox because it would appear from the data that we've received that the engine has a slightly different power characteristic to Alain's car. So therefore, in order for it to peak at the same time, as it were, that's why we're changing the ratios.
Going into the second session, you feel a bit, well, I've just got to give it the best shot I can, but you know you're not going to get the best time, the time you sort of deserve. When you're sitting in the car just before qualifying, I mean, the sort of thing I do is I go over the whole lap. It's sort of a mental lap, and I commit myself through the important corners where you're going to make up speed, and particularly the fast ones, and you've got to be very late on the brakes and everything like that. So it's a different type of aggression you have in a race where you're competing against somebody. It's just sort of competitive aggression. This is aggression with yourself and with the car, but being controlled enough to actually be effective, in terms of getting a lap time.
Now, Will Hoy has pulled off, having taken the flag right at the far end of the pit lane. So Will Hoy's Renault possibly with a problem. Let's see what Cullen can do. It is his last lap, the flag being waved. He's got nobody.
Obviously, when you've got a problem in qualifying, you've got a limited amount of time to fix it. And as a driver, it's very frustrating just sitting in your car waiting while the mechanics try to fix it. And it's nothing you can do about it. You just got to sit there and be frustrated. And it's unused aggression, as it were. It's unused adrenaline which is building up. And afterwards, when you haven't been able to go out, you have to go and kick something. The engine's very French. It's sort of obviously a very passionate engine, all hot and steamy. My one and only flying lap was a very good one as far as I'm concerned, because as a driver you have to judge your own lap. Overall, it was a sort of an 8 or 9 out of 10. Then I started getting problems with the engine, and that rather confirmed that, well, it's been going downhill ever since yesterday. Today's been a sort of question of highs and lows, and I've obviously experienced the low with the engine problem, although obviously Alain's had a very good run and the car's right at the front of the field, and that's where I would have hoped to have been. It's going to mean, though, tomorrow, all being well with a fresh engine, I'm going to have a very, very strong race. Well, in both races I should have a strong performance and get from where I am, which is the middle of the field, 10th, whatever, right through to the top 4 or 5.
With a new engine the following day, Will pulled up to 6th position in the first race and 5th in the second, while Alain Menu achieved 2nd and 4th.
Development continues.
How honest are you? Have you told the insurance company a porky?
Is your tax disc out of date? And which laws are you prepared to break?
To find out answers to questions like that, we had to guarantee drivers anonymity.
But that allowed us to acquire the 50,000 answers in this, the Motor Show dossier, a nationwide database of drivers' attitudes, loyalties and habits.
And it seems, one way or another, many drivers aren't too honest. Computer analysis of the results this week reveals that 80% of all respondents said they would break the law if they knew they would get away with it, like lying on the proposal form.
Less than 1 in 150 drivers south of Watford had done this, but north of Watford that number tripled. And 1/3 of MG owners laid the dubious claim to the greatest dishonesty with their insurers.
Ford owners asserted they were the most honest, but 10% were still without a current tax disc. Worse in this area were Volkswagen drivers, more than a quarter without that vital road fund licence.
In the post. As for those most likely to sell you a dud, half of those who had bought a lemon acquired it in a private sale from a fellow motorist.
But this is the result that stunned us. Of all our respondents south of Watford, a staggering 1 in 15 had absconded from a petrol station without paying.
In the north, 1/3 fewer had done this at some point, but whichever way you look at it, that's criminal.
This is the Espero, which, despite its Italian-designed body, is a Korean Vauxhall. And over here is the Nexia, the Korean version of the Astra. These are the first offerings from Daewoo, who say they're going to revolutionise the way we buy our cars. But just how are they going to do that? This needs a closer look. This is the 1.8 CDI. It's got adjustable headlights, airbag, ABS and electric everything. Nothing stands out at me with the Espero. I feel as though I've seen it all before. And of course I have, because this is a Bertone-bodied Cavalier. Inside, what makes it different is there are a lot of unnecessary curves and corners. Looking ahead is fine. It's uncluttered and you get a good view of the simple instruments. But look to either side and it all gets a bit fussy. Not at all European. I'm sure you wouldn't need to be on steroids to break this flimsy door latch. And if you're one of those drivers who likes to cover the sunroof, forget it. But what about the looks? Well, down at the nose there's more than a hint of Citroën with perhaps a touch of Proton. But away from there, the lines give way to a long, low, executive look until you get to here, when the glazing bill goes up. Now, I'm not sure what this window does for the styling, but it does help visibility, which is crucial in today's watch-out, over-your-shoulder motoring. Round to the back, and those long lines reveal an exceptionally large boot. Now, a man could put something seriously substantial in there. And what about the Nexia? Well, head-on, it's got an intriguingly aggressive appearance, but as we move around the car, we see it looks just like an Astra. No extra window at the back for this car. But what's it like to drive? It's an Astra. Let's go back to the other car, it's a lot more interesting. This engine eats up the revs. It goes through the red line disconcertingly easily, and if you do hit a bend a little too enthusiastically, there's a hint of understeer, and all that adds up to is a bit of fun. The feedback through the power steering feels just right, the gearbox is unobtrusive, and the brakes are sharp. I wonder if they do that in Korea. That's it then. These two are the car buying revolution Daewoo claimed to be offering, but not quite. There's a bit more.
Daewoo are the 33rd biggest company on the planet, and they make, well, practically everything. And when an outfit that big decides to change the way we buy our cars, they don't go in for half measures. So they're opening up a national chain of showrooms with a rather flattering name.
This is a motor show, our first motor show in Rotherham. And as you can see, when you look around, you'll find that there's an area for the kids to play in, a cafe to relax and have a cup of coffee, and you won't get hassled or haggled by our people. When you come through the door, they'll ask you what you want while you're here and ask you to have a look round at your leisure. You can use the interactive media and almost design your own car and go away, if you like, without talking to anybody.
When you are ready, touch accept this colour.
You're a brand new name in the market. You're heavily reliant upon General Motors. When will we see an original Daewoo car?
Right, well, we've bought 2 design centres in Germany and in Worthing, and we've brought in some of the best brains in the industry to help us design new product. But frankly, we've got no embarrassment about our GM heritage.
So what is no hassle, no haggle?
Well, it means when you come in, there's a price on the car, and that's the price you have to pay if you want to take one away. And it means that there's a whole package included with it. You don't have to pay for anything for 3 years almost. You get road fund licence included, you get delivery included in the price, 3 years servicing, 3 years warranty. We even warrant the wearing parts, which is very unusual.
So I came in and I say to you, I'd like that car there, will you knock £500 off?
No.
Will you knock £50 off?
No.
A fiver?
No.
A penny?
No.
You won't knock 1 penny off?
No.
And do you think the British public will go for that?
I think they're ready for it, to be honest. I think when you buy a new car in a conventional fashion, you tend to walk away feeling that you've been stitched up.
Whether anyone feels like that after paying just over £8,000 for the base Nexia to a little more than £12,000 for the top-of-the-range Espero 2-litre CDXi remains to be seen. But Daewoo will still need to keep an eye on the rest of the motor retail trade, who are quietly changing too.
Daewoo are staking their immediate future on value-for-money packages offered in a shopping environment rather than a sales room. And there's no doubt that their early campaigns have seized the public attention. But I wonder whether these models are just a little too bland to build on that promising start. Until Daewoo lose the General Motors connection and establish their own product, they could be in danger of selling just another car. And there's a lot of those.
Coming up after the break.
California proves that electric cars can have serious performance.
And down with hoods.
As we sample a pair of cabriolets.
Still no answer, sir.
Right, Boff. We're going in. Wendy!
Snake bite.
Right, Boff, you listen to his clothing, I'll get the local doctor. Au medico, Aperto. Habang adior. Last.
What is it, sir?
Apparently he is the local doctor. That's enough loosening now, Boff.
We're looking for his Barclay card, sir.
His Barclay card? This man's in no state to go shopping.
No, I'm going to phone him up for medical advice, sir.
You're going to phone Barclay card for medical advice?
Barclay card International Rescue, sir. They can send doctors
Look,
and...
we're wasting time here, Boff. This man has a serious case of snakebite and there's only one thing that's going to save him. I'm going to have to locate the wound and suck out the poison. Yes, actually, I think perhaps you better phone Barclay card, Boff. I'm not sure I've got there. You know, my lips were a little... But, well, I thought I had a solution, but then...
Keep cool. Buy an Oasis.
Introducing a faster way from dandruff to beautiful hair. New transformed Head & Shoulders.
Right now, on every Renault Clio, there's 0% finance over 2 years. The Renault Clio, from £7,564 on the road. Visit your Renault dealer now and save yourself more of the folding.